Welcome to Reconnected and Free, a safe space to explore, recalibrate, and come home to yourself. I'm Maya, your podcast host, and together we are on a journey of creating a life that feels true to you. Are you free? That might sound like a really simple question, especially, and that's what we definitely did a disclaimer focus on, when you are just a Westerner person who has all her basic needs met and can just go wherever, whenever, basically. But that's already where things start to get interesting, because I asked you, and I really want you to tune into that. Are you free? Do you feel free? Do you feel like in your everyday life, mostly you just do what feels good for you, what is fitting for you, and you can just authentically, naturally be yourself and be accepted with that and just live a life in the terms that you like? Or do you feel like you are trapped, you're caged in a certain system, in a certain rhythm or concept or job or whatever it is for you? Because so many people are living in a nowadays concept stereotypic, the 9 to 5 job in a city, spending all their time just like nearly all the time just working and then recharging from that work. And even if you like it, there's still someone who is telling you when to do, what to do. So you, for example, can't go wherever you want to, whenever you want to. And if that's okay for you, that's fine. I just want you to make you aware of certain aspects of freedom, as for example now about the freedom where you are when you are aware. And you see, are you getting the point of just, and when it's your decision that feels good within yourself, that seems to be the right decision for you in that moment, that you are living under the certain conditions you are living in, then all good. But so many people just try to fit into a system, just try to convince themselves of there are certain things they need to do. And I can understand some arguments, but just in the end, for example, the job situation, when it comes down, there are different jobs that could work better for you and better for a different kind of lifestyle. And you do not need to do an exhausting everyday life. You're always free to go and then do things different, approach things differently. And with your own freedom, you gotta understand that it is your own responsibility to free yourself. How many people, including me in my past definitely, are waiting for someone else to free them, to give them permission to do whatever they want to do? But honestly, and this might be hard for you to hear, no one's gonna save you. No one's gonna drag you out of your shit. No one's gonna take care of that, be for you, set a beautiful life that you really want in front of you. You are the one who gotta become aware of what is and what you wish for, and internalize that you are worth what you want and that you can have that, live that, and then step out of where you are currently at, even though it might take some or quite some steps. So freedom also begins in your mind. It's the permission you give yourself. You need to convince yourself you're worthy of that. And there's a lot and expect that magically things are appearing for you. So what I'm saying here is that it's always the combination when you want to have something new in your life of that you imagine it, that you do the inner work so you don't have blockages, and at the same time it's also the action steps that are like actually doing things different in your everyday life, and especially regarding to what you want to have differently. There could be different things that might hold you back, not only like the mind itself, but also how you got conditioned. Conditioning is something that happens in the first years of our life, in our childhood, when we just copy from our surroundings, when we just adapt to whatever, however we can succeed in our environment to get attention, to get love, and so on, to really break this down a lot right now. So you might not recognize that you still do certain things, uh, like whatever you do in your life to, in the end, just seek love, attention, unconsciously. So you don't act out of your true nature, out of what you really want, what you're like, what your heart wants, what your soul wants, what would really, truly, deeply fulfill you. But what you try to convince yourself that this is how it's supposed to be. So there's a lot going on in your subconscious about that topic of where you are and about that freedom. And there is definitely also a lot of influence, I'd say, not only from our childhood, but also from our surroundings ever since then, and also our current surroundings. So that's why your environment is so important. That's why I point out again and again the importance of where you live, with who you have to do how much, and how that shapes you. Because there's so many factors that make us make the decisions that we do, that let us stay where we are, let us stay on a certain level and a certain happiness in the end that we allow ourselves to have, that we allow to believe in, that this is the maximum of happiness that we could have anyways right now. So in the end, we keep ourselves small. And where do we learn that? We also learn that in our current society, because our society is not there to support us into our full freedom, but it's there to make us feel small, to fit in, to press us down, and also to make us dependent. There you can see in so many different things, like social media, like what you see there, what you also see in stories and films and movies, where you like also in books or whatever, you know, that entertainment kinda that pushes you into having certain pictures of how things are supposed to be and what certain things mean. What does a good life mean? How should a relationship look like? And so on. So we get influenced by all these different things, by the people that always surrounded us, still are surrounding us, and also society itself. The whole system is built on, in my perception, that we just being kept small, we just need to fit in and follow a certain structure so that this system makes sense. And this is not about the individual and your beautiful talents and strengths, and that you just have your life where you just can unfold yourself, kind of. But it is about making profit out of you. It is about society functioning. And I don't just want to talk everything bad about the current situation and the society. I just really want to point out in this podcast episode specifically that we are not as free as we think we are. We are really influenced, even also like by advertisements and so on. Like every decision that we do, we just refer, our brain refers to former experiences, and is also so referring to whatever information it got, whatever we intook in information, kinda. And we are so also overloaded, overstimulated with where we live, with different sensations. For example, in a city that's really could be really like keeping you and your energy also down, is like when it's really loud, when there's a lot of light, especially at night, so like unnatural light, and different and when it's just super unnatural, when there is just everything built and there's no nature left. And then we are just so in this kind of bubble, I'd say, in this kind of, I would even say cage, to make this really, really seeable and visual. Instead, there is, the freedom is waiting like outside of that cage. So you're the one who needs to like unlock this cage and go through its door. And that could be hard, because that means letting go, understanding you were wrong with what you thought is best for you, letting go of certain places, people, a lot of comfort. It could feel unsafe. And that's it. We naturally tend to stay where we feel safe, and where we mostly feel safe where there is certainty. And uncertainty can make your nervous system feel unsafe. And so that's how you also internal automatically hold yourself back. This is another big reason why it's so important that we learn about our nervous system, that we learn how to regulate ourselves, how we make ourselves be able to calm down in the end, and calm our system down at any given point, so we can really, with a clarity, then step towards what we want. And we all know that sometimes we just gotta go step out of our comfort zone, because out of our comfort zone there are the new things waiting for us, the dreams that we want to be fulfilled, the good life, the happiness, and just also the growth experiences that we just wish for having, or skills that we want to have. But we got to go through that process, which is for me this kind of stepping out of this door, like unlocking the door and then stepping out of this door of our cage. And this is where freedom is awaiting us. And this, whatever freedom means for you, you gotta define that yourself. You got to figure that out yourself along your path. First, it's important to become aware, then to make the decision of I want to feel free, and then to therefore make action steps and figure out maybe what does freedom mean for you, how does your life look like, how do you feel inside of yourself then, and so on. And just go, try out. It's best always to try out. The worst thing that can happen is that you don't try things out, because whenever you try, sure, you could fail, but you could also win so much. But when you never try, you never know. You never could, you just can't fail, but you also can't win, kind of, because you just stay where you are. And I just wish for you that you figure out what freedom means for you, and that you can also be like flexible with it evolving, because it's not as if that's like, is like same as freedom doesn't mean the same, the kind of freedom that I'm talking about for every person. It also is different for like every kind of life phase. It can change during your lifetime, and that's totally fine, because in the end everything is always changing. We can see that in nature, for example. And that is like one of our greatest teachers for sure, nature. And she would also not evolve, not just change anymore. In your journey of setting yourself free, it might not only happen that your subconscious, your mind, is trying to hold you back. We've talked about that now already. It could also be that other people are trying to hold you back. And honestly, that can really stop you, and that can really feel hard. Different people have different motives why they are trying to hold you back from changing your life, doing something different, stepping into your own kind of freedom, fulfilling your dreams, your vision, and so on. Everything that goes into that freedom, change kind of direction. Different people have different motives why they are trying to hold you back from changing your life, doing something different, stepping into your own kind of freedom, fulfilling your dreams, your vision, and so on. Everything that goes into that freedom, change kind of direction. And as I said, different people can have different reasons to act like that. And some might just openly just be jealous, like, or like envy you that you are doing the things that they wish to do. And that's like something that most people don't show obvious. Many people just also love you and are just afraid of you, that you just, because you do something different, something unknown to them, and they want the best for you, and then they are afraid of that you just fail. To make exactly this phenomenon of how people are behaving when you are changing something in your life visual, let me tell you a little story about crabs. So imagine a green bucket filled with crabs. Crabs that are alive, that moving a bit inside of this bucket. And on this bucket there is no lid. You might think they would try to escape, but they often don't. And what is actually going on in this bucket is that one crab, one crab starts climbing on top of the other crabs, tries to make its way to the top to escape. And this beautiful crab nearly made its way on top out of the bucket, is nearly at the rim. And in that moment, other crabs grab onto her and pull her back down, so she can't escape. None of them escapes. They all stayed, they all just stay trapped. Whether these crabs will end up dying in this bucket or will be taken somewhere, will be even fried alive whatsoever, death is in this scenario inevitable. But what could have happened is, if one would have escaped, that crab might have seen that it's placed on a beach nearby a beautiful blue ocean where it just could have an amazing life, going wherever, meeting other crabs, having amazing food, and just joyfully continuing living instead of that inevitable death. But imagine, still, that crab got held back by the others. And that's not just any kind of story about crabs that might or might not actually behave like that, but it's like a symbol of what you can actually experience between humans too. When you start changing your life, when you start healing, when you're on that journey where you don't just blindly follow other people's expectations or just people please and say yes to everything, even though when you would really listen to yourself, that's not what you want. You just wanna like get approval, be in everyone's favor consciously or unconsciously, because in the end, everyone just wants to be liked. That's like a natural behavior of us humans, that we act in favor of others, that we want to be liked. An old survival mechanism that we don't need anymore. Sure, what I'm saying here is it's lovely when we are kind to each other, when we are a helping hand, supporting, but definitely not at the cost of just helping and being kind to each other to be liked, to get an own favor out of it, and definitely also not out of not having resources. You know, you first gotta take care, in my perception, of yourself, that you have a full cup, or at least half full cup, that you can give from. Because when you, as a vessel, when your own cup is empty, it's so much more exhausting and so much harder to give. So better just take care of yourself, and from that fullness and from becoming and getting more into that fullness, which is your actual natural normal state, then therefore being able to actually give. So it's a lot about conscious and unconscious, and out of which conscious intention we are acting the way we're acting. And what could also happen is a little explanation, because for me, these explanations have really helped me when I was like, why are the people now kind of mean to me? Why do they try to hold me back? What is going on? I'm just trying to make this world a better place. Then maybe these other explanations can help you too. Because like what the story is also a symbol of is that when you grow, when you change your life, and when you actually have some kind of success, maybe also through it, doesn't need to, but maybe you have some kind of success through it. You're like, you're happier, you earn a bit more money, you have more friendships, whatever it is, and other people around you, like your old environment, sees that can really scare them, because they feel challenged of their own beliefs, fears, their comfort zone, you know? And they need to question themselves then. If they would really look and be honest to themselves, they would need to question themselves why they aren't making changes, why they are still where they are. Because when it's possible for you, it must also be possible for them, probably. At least there's this option, and when it's possible for you and you had a similar environment, then it could be possible for them too. And as I said, there's also a lot of fear, and you can either act out of, there are only like these two core motivations, these core feelings from whatever else resultates out of that, is fear or love. And oftentimes we are so held back, and those people then are so held back by their own fears, their own scarcity, instead of their pure love. Because love is always believing and open and supporting. And that doesn't mean to never doubt anything and to be unrealistic. Of course, it's good to have a closer look, or when you see like your friends are honestly like doing something completely different, and you're honestly concerned about their well-being. And when you have reflected on, if you get that far, sometimes it's hard to get to that point, to then consciously communicate that, hey, I perceive that this and that is going on with you. I perceive you have changed a lot. You live different now. Why is that? Do you really feel good with that? Or something like that. You know, it's about that conscious communication, that talking about out of your own perception and your own perspective. And then that's a totally different thing than talking about someone badly behind their back, or about insulting someone, or just telling them, hey, you're doing shit there. You know? So what is also like a good a good direction to an intention to act out of is definitely curiosity. Instead of just like giving something a certain meaning directly, try to be open and curious and ask questions. And you'll be surprised about the answers. And maybe that resonates with you, maybe it doesn't. Maybe it brings you further away or nearer to a person. But at least you gave your best in understanding and in maintaining a beautiful relationship and bringing yourself or the other person forward than holding someone back because of your own patterns, your own perspective, your own perception in the end. Because so often we also try to kind of label everything, also a lot automatically through our brain, label everything and put a certain meaning and a certain opinion on things, but that resultates also only, that is only a result out of our past experiences, and because it might have worked in the past. The brain just thinks I declare something as has worked in the past when we didn't die, kinda, to say it that extreme. So it's just holding us back to be trapped in our own opinions that are that are the results of the past. Instead of going with that constant openness and curiosity, which really opens doors and can surprise us. Because when you allow yourself to step away from these just reoccurring opinions and labels, you open the space, like you're opening a kind of door for something new, for something even better to come into your life. So it's definitely a win-win-win. So what I'm trying to say, to bring that back into our personal lives, and I experienced it a lot already, that I try to do things different. I try to figure out my life. I try to like go into the freedom that I wanted. And so many times with so many different things also, people, the nearest people to me, were just holding me back. Sometimes they tried with like just telling me, hey, don't do this. But when that didn't work, and some people from the beginning on didn't just say, hey, I'm concerned about you when this doesn't work out, then you might just uh, fall and you need support, and there's no one who can support you or whatsoever. They weren't aware of their actual feelings and communicated them consciously, but instead they were like sending me really mean messages that I am a bad person, that this can never work, and that I'm just a shame for the whole family, for everyone, blah 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 blah. And this is not to pity myself, this is just to show you that sometimes there's a lot of unconscious action, and that people are just trying to hold you back no matter how much they think or do love you or not. And it's up to you to not get held back, but to like really connect with yourself and what you really want and where your freedom lies, and then just act accordingly and find the people along the way that can support you, that are already a step further in the direction that you want to go to, people you really connect to, and go with people that are giving you a push, a helping hand, instead of dragging you down. And especially in first with many dreams, or especially like with traveling, I heard that so often now in the travel bubble, kind of, that people just said, hey, I cannot go with you, this I cannot imagine just leaving my country or whatever. And that's so totally fine, that certain things are not made for certain people. The thing is just, when no one comes with you, go alone with whatsoever is bringing you to your freedom, to your vision. Because imagine how much you would regret in the end when you wouldn't have at least tried something out. And it's definitely no failure when you then decide, okay, this wasn't the way, and you just go back into your old life, or you just do something different. But it would be way harder to just, in the end, know, hey, I could have just felt so good, so free every day, could have experienced certain things, but I never did. And the worst, I never did because of someone holding me back, because of something holding me back, like my old life, my mind, me not finding solutions, or whatsoever. So at least try it out. And it doesn't always need to be the big things. If it's the big things, following your vision, going into a new country, traveling the world, whatever it is, amazing. Full on support from my side for those ideas. And when it's just changing small things like quitting your job, moving to a new place, or even smaller, just how you spend your mornings and your evenings, that after and before work, that instead of like being on your phone, reading a book, or I don't know, stitching, or whatever your hobby is, or so on, just that you then do something that makes you feel alive, that makes you feel free, and that you choose consciously. Because, by the way, fell in that trap also. So I just feel like I should mention that. Oftentimes we do certain things like using social media or eating specific products, meals, whatever. We just do that to gain a feeling out of that indirectly, like consuming social media to feel connected instead of lonely, instead of approaching fulfilling our needs more directly, which would be, for example, connecting to a friend, connecting to ourselves with a meditation, some sports, a movement, whatever. So just be aware of what are your actual needs, how I can fulfill my needs, and that is already something that could set you so much more free, because you don't get like kind of controlled by some kind of outside force, but guiding your heart, guiding yourself through and towards what also long term feels good. Think about that long term. How do you feel short term after like being on your phone? How do you feel long term when you instead went out for doing some sports, or going for a walk in nature, or just standing, looking, like maybe not looking, but just like standing in the sun and just feeling it on your skin? You know, how's the difference? How your mood is also a good indicator. How alive do you feel? How free do you feel? How really truly deeply aligned and happy do you feel? And don't shy away from really honestly asking yourself those questions, reflecting it, and then also doing action steps. And you don't need to do all of these alone. Just connect with beautiful people who are also on that journey, who are a little bit further on that journey. And let's all just be a helping hand for each other to live a more fulfilled life, to set ourselves free. Thank you for being here. Until next time, much love, Maya.